the combination of those three guys, I think, is going to be huge. And I'm the son of a defensive coordinator, and my dad always talks about the middle of your defense. And you can be good at inside linebacker and defensive line, to the defensive line. That's the big beginnings of the defense. I think we're really good there. I think we'll have one of the top corners in America, Caillou Kelly. Missed some time last year, but this guy is long, fast, and explosive, and showed a lot as a true freshman. And really picked up last year. I think he's going to be one of the best in America this year. I think we are deeper and faster than most people think that we are. I think we came out of spring in a good spot. So I don't worry about the rankings. I think we did underperform at times last year, particularly against the run. A lot of it was just purely assignment football. We had some young guys out there, some inexperienced guys out there. I think Coach Anderson, our defensive staff, did a great job of dissecting not just what went wrong last year, but what went right last year, and the personnel that we have right now, make sure those guys are put in a good position going forward. Thank you.
Learning below with 24/7 Sports, Stanford typically doesn't host official visitors in the month of June. I know you guys changed that tune this year. Is that something that you maybe hope to do in years to come, or how was the temperature, I guess, on that experience?
I believe a couple of things, in particular whenever you're running an organization. Number one is you have to have a philosophy that works for you individually and the place that you are leading. But number two, I think you need to be adjustable. Circumstances have changed dramatically in the last year and a half. COVID first and foremost, and for student athletes, I'll say it, for student athletes not legally being allowed to visit campuses over the time period was a big hamper to the recruiting process. So the fact that we were able to have an opportunity to have a lot of these guys come on campus in June, and honestly, I'll be honest, I resisted initially hosting because we've had such a great way of doing our recruiting. If you ask anybody that we've recruited over the last decade, 90% of them will say the best thing that we've done is our having our official visits in December. It's been the best thing about our recruiting, and it was hard to give that up because we have an opportunity to bring the entire class in together. And it's important to bring their families in together and to really feel like a group, really feel like a unit. And our parent group is extremely strong. It's one of the best things about our entire program. And it really starts there when those parents get to know each other. So it's not just about getting guys to come. Like we ask our student athletes, our prospective student athletes to do more than anybody else in America. And that official visit was like a reward. But with COVID and really hearing and talking to student athletes on Zoom, of course, for months, a high percentage of this 22 class, they were going to make their decisions at the end. They hadn't been able to see any place. They want to see as many places they can in June, and a high percentage of like, I'm making my decisions over the summer. So we couldn't wait, right? We didn't have a chance for our coaches to go out and see them. We didn't have a chance for those unofficial visits. So this was going to be our shot, so we had to do it. Now, combining that with, sorry for the long answer, but this is all just the honest answer to your question. So grateful to Stanford, the administration of Stanford University, our president, our provost, our professors, Bernard, your athletic director, and really pushing for early enrollment. So now that we have an opportunity to have early enrollees combined with these early decisions, now in order to do a Stanford official visit, we're able to put out there and say, okay, in order to come, we need you to be here academically, we need you to get your senior schedule set for Stanford, we need to get you started on the application. So those are things I think without early enrollment, that I don't know that we would be able to do that and have guys still be able to come on visits. So now that's an opportunity. Now we've had a lot of really high caliber athletes, many of whom have committed to us, but showed interest in us now being able to come on campus. So now that sets us up to have a better process for having a fruitful official visit period in June, whereas before, if we had official visits in June, it was going to be hard to have a mechanism to make sure that these people were actually academically viable for our place. Most college coaches around the country don't understand our process, and honestly, it's one of the big things they try to recruit against us. They think that we fabricate all this stuff, but I have no say in the the application process. I have no say in the admissions process. But now for us to be able to put those bars up there, and for guys to say, okay, if I want to come to Stanford, to have Stanford as an opportunity, to have Stanford as an early admit opportunity, I need to start that academic process. I need to start that application process early on. So now we have a mechanism to make sure these guys are on the right track, because if we didn't do that, we'd have a bunch of guys from all over the country saying, yeah, I'll come do an official visit, and then after the official visit, not taking the classes, not taking the tests that we needed to, et cetera. So we now have a mechanism to make it a viable thing for us to have early, to have guys come on official visits in June, and have them truly be on the academic track. Because we'll still have some guys that want to come on a visit, but they won't be where we need them to be academically, say their senior schedule, and we don't allow them to come. So now we stop wasting our time and not waste their time as well. Thank you.
Hey, David, Ryan Cartuch at LA Times. What's been your message to players just about getting the vaccine? And you personally, what do you feel like the responsibility is of a head coach in that situation?
I think throughout all of this COVID situation from the very beginning, I think Stanford and our entire county, we've been a little bit more restricted, but I think we've also been very straightforward and truly putting the health and safety of our student athletes first. I tell them a couple of things. Number one, I'm not going to mandate that anybody do something that they truly don't believe in. Mandate that they do something that is maybe not in their own best interest medically for themselves. I think it's better and safer for all of us if everybody is vaccinated. And as we all know, being vaccinated doesn't keep you from ever getting the virus. It keeps it from being as severe as it could be without. So it is about personal safety, but at the same time, now being a member of the football team, and it's one of the best things about being a member of a team is that it's not about you, it's about everybody else. So we have a process at Stanford by which you can appeal, and we've had multiple guys appeal and get those appeals okayed. But it's more than just not getting the vaccine. It's now understanding if you're not vaccinated, that you have a responsibility to be here for your teammates. So how you live away from us, every decision still needs to be about the team. If you're not vaccinated, okay, great, that's fine. It's what you and your family believe in, and it's best for you. We love you to death. You're part of us. We're a family here. But now you have to live a life that keeps you available as a viable student athlete for us. So there are going to be different rules for vaccinated and unvaccinated people. And if we all are on the same page, then I believe we'll have a great result. I think our team is still strong regardless of people doing different things. Because it's still about us being there and being available for duty when those games come around.
I know that the new commissioner said they were going to have a policy in mid-August in terms of games going out with absences. What do you feel like is the fairest policy?
I'm open to all the possibilities. I think many of us are much more educated on the virus, and our behavior matters, vaccinated or unvaccinated. There's now a responsibility, I believe, on all of us to make sure that we can field the team. The structures that we'll have as a university, as an athletic department, as a football program, need to be in such a way that help people stay safe. But there's going to be an individual responsibility as well that our guys have to understand. If you are, more so than ever, if you are now living outside of what is wise, and now you can potentially affect 2 people, which affects 8 people, which affects now a bunch of people, and you can put yourself in a position to really costing your team a game. We saw it happen in the College World Series. We saw, the Yankees, Red Sox game get pushed. We saw multiple guys that are gearing up to be in the Olympics, men and women that now are not in the Olympics. There are multiple golfers in the PGA Tour that could play in events. So the COVID hasn't gone away. So it's still about making great decisions, vaccinated or unvaccinated, with the idea of what's best for the team at the forefront. Thank you.
Coach Troy Terry, Richard Guest, good to see you out in person again. A couple months ago, you weren't too shy about your thoughts on playing Kansas State in North Texas, 9 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Central. Weren't you shy again with your thoughts? What are your thoughts on that now, as we get closer and closer to the season?
Yeah, I'm doubling down on the same philosophy, the same thought process. When these deals are made, that they need to be in the best interest of both parties. It is not in the best interest of our conference to play out-of-conference games when we're going to play the game basically at 9 o'clock in the morning for our bodies, which is now giving these guys up at 6 o'clock in the morning their body time to play a game, whereas we're going to play an opponent who's going to get up at 8 o'clock, their body time. We had one of the world's foremost authorities on sleep, Dr. Dement, who passed away this past year, who was instrumental in what we do and how we do it. And one of the principles that he used to always say to me is, these are college kids. The majority of them are not going to sleep at 9 o'clock. You can tell them to. You can try to make them. They're not going to sleep at 9 o'clock. So the earlier you get them up, with them going habitually staying up later hours, you are now hampering their academic performance. You're hampering their academic performance. You're hampering their relationship, how they interact with each other, because lack of sleep is one of the biggest issues for all of us. It hampers everything that you do. So now, organizationally, we want to make sure, and it's a thing I kind of went on a limb, and thankfully a lot of the coaches in our conference would kind of applauded me for it, which was, as a conference, we need to be able to say, we want to play these great out-of-conference games, but we want to make sure they're played at a proper time for all of us. And I understand there were windows, and I talked to a couple of the schedulers with Fox who reached out to me and said a couple of things, which I appreciate. But for me in my position, what I care about is what's best for our student athletes. And playing at 9 o'clock in the morning for us is not what's best for our student athletes. Playing at 8:30, 9 o'clock at night, and getting home at 3 o'clock in the morning is not what's best for our student athletes. So as we go forward, and we have a new TV deal coming around, and we've got a lot of conversations with a lot of big-time out-of-conference games over the next couple of years from our conference, that I think needs to come into play to make sure that we get the best opportunity for our student athletes to go out there and perform at a time in which their bodies can't perform at a high level.
One last question.
So next question for you, David. The sport is moving more towards two down lines defensively. Your division, including yourselves, still employs a line of 12, 13, occasionally 22. It's kind of the opposite of what the sport is doing as a whole, outside of Oregon and Wazoo, or 11 and 10. How do you prepare where you have a division that does one thing, a sport that is shifting very much the other way?
I'm a firm believer that if you're good at what you do, then you make people adjust. I think we finished the last decade with 3 conference championships and the top 2 in wins, and the winning record against the entire conference. So trends can change, but there's certain things that don't. One thing Chip and I agree 100% on, which is time of possession doesn't matter, but what does matter is possessions. So if we can have time of possession on our side, and we can score touchdowns in the red zone, the combination of those 2 things, we now put the disadvantage on some of these high caliber, fast-paced spread offenses that count on 2 things. They count on number of plays and they count on number of possessions. So it's purely math. If we can deplete their number of plays and deplete their number of possessions, so now they're playing less plays than they're used to playing, we can hopefully keep their score down all the while playing with the physical mentality and attitude that we have. We still throw the ball, and we still spread the ball around quite a bit. We now put ourselves in a position at the end of the game to be ahead.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you all very much.
All right, we'll have University of Washington up here in just a few moments.